More than 160 countries have formally adopted the Global Compact for Migration. The UN-born initiative is aimed at protecting migrants and their safety.
There are over 258 million migrants around the world living outside their country of birth. UN data shows that more than 60,000 have died on the move since the year 2000, and this figure is expected to grow. The United Nations decided in 2016 to develop a global compact for safe, orderly and regular migration. This week, the New York Declaration for Refugees and Migrants was adopted by 160 countries in Morocco. They agreed to 23 objectives for better managing migration. But several countries refused to attend the summit or adopt the compact, including the United States, Austria, Hungary, Chile, the Dominican Republic, Poland and Slovakia. Allaying the concerns of these countries, the UN says the agreement on migration fully respects the sovereignty of states.
Some of the fears and some of the concerns which have been exploited and maybe misconstrued in some cases, not in all, but in some cases, that people will see their fears allayed. We are not going to start advocating for no borders. We are not going to start advocating for removing the sovereignty of countries over their migration. Absolutely not. Migration needs to be a balanced process. Countries need to feel secure.
So far this year, more than 3,000 people have died leaving their home countries, most of them in the Mediterranean Sea.
Return what's rightfully ours. That's the call from curators of Senegal's newly opened Museum of Black Civilizations. They want art and artifacts that are in French museums to be brought home.
We are preserving it.
Not backing down. Curators on the continent are pushing for stolen artworks to be returned home. This follows the historic opening of the Museum on Black Civilization in Dakar a week ago. And its curators are capitalizing on the publicity to call for the decolonization of African art and art history. The museum is one of several on the continent that could eventually receive thousands of artifacts looted during the colonial era. African governments are now stepping up pressure on Western museums. A French government report has urged mass restitution of African art.
Decolonizing art history is a fundamental step Africans are going to take, that we have to take, to demonstrate that these artworks, the discourses that were produced on these artworks, where they don't fit, we need to dismantle.
The Museum of Black Civilizations has space for about 18,000 works of art, although many of its galleries are still empty.
We need to preserve our culture. So this is just like a bath, a newborn baby. So it will take time before it starts working until it becomes mature. So to me, this is the beginning of our success, realizing our potential, realizing our culture and tradition.
Some European museum directors have argued that African museums are unable to preserve the artworks. Others fear that restitution would empty European museums. They would like to improve the circulation of arts to include African venues that are considered capable. Besides Senegal, Nigeria and Benin are opening new museums meant to serve in part as a reply to arguments that Africa lacks facilities to care for the works. Additional countries, including Ivory Coast, have requested either permanent or temporary restitution.
Let's now take a look at stories around the African continent that had social media buzzing. Kenya has swapped the former presidents on its currency for animals. The Central Bank of Kenya and President Uhuru Kenyatta unveiled new 1, 5, 10 and 20 shilling coins this week. On them are images of an elephant, lion, giraffe and rhino. The bank asked the public's opinion before the move and says the images will be clearer for visually impaired people. A man drowned in Ghana in a baptism gone wrong. A video of him being baptized and eventually drowning has been circulating on social media. Police have arrested a junior pastor and are hunting for the head pastor who was involved in the incident. Egypt has clamped down on the sale of yellow reflective vests. The government is concerned that political opponents may try to copy French protesters who've taken to streets clad in these vests. Equipment distributors have been instructed not to sell yellow vests to walk-in buyers, only to verified companies. That was this week's edition of #Africa. Stay tuned for the latest headlines on ENCA. Take care.